Ruthie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe, ring the notification bell, and you get a notification when I make a new video. So I think this video is going to be really helpful to some people because this is some information that absolutely blew my mind as soon as I heard it. It really just made a lot of things click into place for me and gave me a lot of guidance in an area that I didn't even know I needed guidance in. So I'm going to get right into it. Fake it till you make it. We've all heard it. We all have done it to some extent. And if you're like me, you've noticed that sometimes it's really helpful, sometimes it's not so helpful. So I posed this question to my therapist. When are you supposed to do it? A lot of times in social situations, it really helps me to fake it till I make it, because if I pretend I have confidence, or if I pretend that I'm someone who likes to go out and have fun with people, then I actually do feel that way. And it reminds me that I'm that person. But other times when I try to fake it till I make it, I just feel like a fake bitch and I don't like myself. So I'm like, what is the guideline? Is there any trick to incorporate this idea into my life in a way that works? And there is. So when it comes to faking it till you make it, I'm just going to tell you the trick and then I'm going to explain it after. I know I usually do the opposite, but I'm going to try to get to the point quicker this time. So if your feelings match the facts of the situation, then faking it till you make it would be denying reality, which is suffering, because suffering is the pain of existence plus the denial of reality. But if your feelings don't match the facts of your reality, then faking it till you make it could help you and remind you that things are okay and that you're okay. Now I'm going to break that down with some personal examples. So the facts of my reality have been: my grandfather passed away, going through some big changes in my personal life. I'm moving. I was unexpectedly in the hospital while recovering from unexpected surgeries. During a pandemic. I mean, I could continue, but you get the point. There's a lot of facts in my reality that support me feeling sad, depressed, anxious, alone, confused. So especially in the middle of all that stuff, right when all that stuff was happening, if I were to try a fake it till I make it approach as far as being happy, pretend to be happy and then maybe I'll actually be happy, that would be denying the facts of my reality. And that would induce more suffering than I'm already going through. And what's required of me during that time is to fully feel all of those sad feelings and let myself cry, let myself scream and kick and punch and do anything I need to do to release those sad, horrible feelings, create art, whatever my body needs to do. While in the middle of all of that, it's the time to do all of those things. So if I were to skip all the sadness and try to just jump right to pretending to be happy, try to forget that any of that stuff happened, that's a huge denial of reality. And that would just create even more suffering than I was already going through. Because then it would require me to eventually have a realization that all that was really sad and just prolong the whole process of healing. Unless you accept what your reality is, you cannot change it. You have to be completely willing to look at pain and suffering in order to see all of the layers and colors of your specific reality, of our collective reality. You really have to be willing to be wrong and be open to change in order to actually have anything change. You can't just will it to happen. You can't just live through all these horrible things and just be like, it's fine, I'm happy, I'm strong. It's fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And it's just not going to work. Eventually you will fall down and you will feel the pain. So you might as well just feel it. As soon as you need to feel it, just get it over with and start to slowly heal and move on from there. So when faking it till you make it is actually helpful to you, I think is mostly for chemical imbalances. I mean, I know that this is a really tricky area, so I'm trying to tread carefully and be careful with my words, because there's a lot of people close to me who have suffered from chemical imbalances and unexplained depression and anxiety. So I do know that that's a thing, and if that's who you are, then take all of this with a grain of salt. And I mean, for everyone, take this all with a grain of salt. But these are the rules that I heard and really make sense to the way my mind works. So I'm just hoping that this makes sense to your mind too. But if it doesn't, like, please don't come at me or get offended. Full disclaimer, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist. I'm just very interested in the way my mind works and sharing my findings with you, because maybe it'll help you too, because we're all quite similar. So anyway, now I'll give you another personal example of how faking it till you make it can help you. If I'm just in a very shitty mood, like maybe I'm a little hungover, maybe I've been eating shitty food, not drinking enough water, just not really taking care of myself, and I open up the fridge and realize that we're out of eggs, and all I wanted was eggs. If I start crying and being super upset about not having eggs because I really wanted the eggs, then a fake it till you make it approach would help me. This is a very silly example, but it's true. If I'm down and depressed and crying because I ran out of eggs and don't feel like walking to the store, then I would benefit from pretending that I feel like walking to the store so that I can get some eggs and fix the problem. I think for me, a fake it till you make it really applies to working out. It really applies to eating healthy, going for walks, getting outside, especially when I've been in a rut. It really is difficult for me to just feel like it. Like, oh, I feel like working out. In order to get to a point where I do feel like doing that, I have to start with faking it. I have to start with pretending for a few days that I feel like doing yoga first thing in the morning, pretending that I feel like eating healthy, pretending I feel like walking outside. And then after a few days, when my body remembers how much better I feel after doing those things, then it becomes reality. Then I make it. That's where I find that mentality is the most helpful. So for both of these scenarios, self-compassion and a both and mentality are really key components. So having true self-compassion with yourself when you're going through those hard times, that's what allows you to fully feel it in the moment. Imagine if your friend was going through all of those hard things. You'd be like, cry it out, let it out, like cry on my shoulder, you know? So you have to do that for yourself. Deep self-compassion. And same thing when you feel like you're in a little bit of a rut. Self-compassion. And often when I'm stuck in a rut, I will spend a lot of time beating myself up for being in that rut. And that just keeps me in the rut. If I skip a bunch of mornings in a row not doing yoga first thing, then guess what? I'm going to continue to not do yoga first thing. It's this weird thing that our brain does involving shame. Our instincts are that if we shame ourselves and are mean to ourselves and hard on ourselves for not doing the things, then that's going to create a behavioral change. But it doesn't. It never does. It just keeps you stuck in that rut that you want to get out of. So a real key to getting out of that is being compassionate with yourself and understanding it's okay that you've been in this rut. And now it's time to get out of this rut whenever you feel like it. And maybe giving yourself that little kick of a fake it till you make it approach when you need it. I want to talk about this as well, the both and mentality. If you've never heard of that, it's opposed to but and or. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll explain it. If you hear your own dialogue, or if you are talking to other people in this way that's, I want to do this, but I can't do that, or I can only do this or that. No, 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 no. Those are no's. We want to switch those buts and ors to both and. I want to do this and that. I think this polarization is super potent right now of like, you can't be a yoga and meditation person and also be a party person, but it's like, you can be whatever you are. You don't have to be everything. You don't have to be anything. You can be whatever unique mixture of interests you genuinely have. And don't let these boxes and rules of, if you want to be this type of person, then you can't do those things. Don't let that get in the way of your own uniqueness. If you're the type of person that wants to eat junk food and also have a green smoothie, do both. It's okay. You don't have to be all or nothing. Just be whatever you are, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So that mentality has been really helping me as well, especially in this polarizing world we're in that I think is really enhanced by social media because we are putting ourselves out there as like this thing. And if you're like a positive wellness influencer, like then you can't post like dark things or dark thoughts because it doesn't go with your brand or it's off brand. And like, fuck that. We are humans. We're not brands. Just be whatever you are. If I'm feeling in a genuinely positive, like uplifting way, then of course I'm going to like write things and do more positive things and want to put that out there to people. But there are times when I'm feeling super dark and super depressed and angsty and awful. And I usually want to hide that person and keep that away from everything else because I don't want to spread that negativity. I want to spread light. But when there's only light being put out there, it loses meaning, if that makes sense. It's like if everything is all light, then it's nothing because there's no contrast there. So I'm really working on creating things and putting some ideas out there that represent myself even when I'm not feeling good, because I know for myself, when I'm feeling really deep in those dark places, all that you really want is to feel a connection. Because I think the root of a lot of dark feelings is loneliness and just that ultimate feeling of being so alone. So if we all were to just share some of our thoughts when they're not so happy and not so sparkly and nice, then the other people who are feeling that way can read it and feel less alone. And you, as the person putting that out there, you can get that response back with people resonating with what you're saying and also not feel alone. So that's another thing I've been kind of working on, just starting to share a little bit more things that aren't so like light and happy. And I think that really was sparked when I forget who it was, some random person was like, oh, well, you're like a super happy wellness person. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, what? But I realized, like, via Instagram, via like my public thing that's out there, that's what it can look like a lot of the time. So I don't really like that. I'm going to try to like switch that up a little bit. I don't know, just do it more intuitively and less planned. Anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about today that I think will be very helpful is values. How to incorporate values into your life. I've been working on this for a while and I've been very confused and lost, and I haven't felt any like deep benefit from incorporating my values. And I'll tell you why. So incorporating values is very confusing if you've accepted a starting point that doesn't align with your values. So, personal example here. So when I think about values, I really think about your personal environment and what you're exposed to on a daily basis as far as where you live, who you're around, the things that you do, what you put in your body, what you see, what you hear, all of that. I think all of those are values in your life. And for me, values have been very confusing this past year because I didn't feel any like tangible, deep benefit from incorporating these values into my life. So I really just kind of was spiraling and went to a place where I was being very self-destructive. And it's because I accepted a starting point that already didn't align with my values. My starting point was I have to live in New York. Done. Okay. So I'm living in New York. Now what are my values? Okay, I guess I want animals. Let me get some cats. I guess I want a clean environment. Let me obsessively clean everything every day. I guess I want to be close to family. So I guess my only option is to call them more often. And it was just all very confusing because I'm like, well, if my highest value in my mind is being close to family, then living in New York doesn't align with that. So I was just like, it was kind of like a record scratch, like just the whole thing just had to stop because it wasn't working. So once I became brave enough to actually reevaluate where I was living and contemplate whether moving would be good and start making pros and cons lists of living in New York versus living here. My grandfather passed away like right when I was contemplating all that, which was of course upsetting, but it was also really upsetting because I wasn't living with him. And I had spent 2019 living with him, and I decided to move back to New York in 2020. Worst timing ever. So I didn't get to spend that last year of his life living with him, and it really like tore me up inside because I was just having so many regrets, and it was just bad. Once that happened, I also realized that his apartment was open. This beautiful apartment here, if you can see like crown molding, tray ceilings, like oh my god, it's just so beautiful. So this apartment, shit, let me put this back up. Is that where it was? So this apartment became available when he passed away, and this apartment is on the first floor of the house I grew up in. My parents have owned it. I've lived here my entire life, and we've always had long-term tenants. So it was always like this kind of mysterious apartment that I never really got to see except for those rare times in between tenants. And every time I came in, I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. Like I've always dreamed of living here. That happened right when I was making the pros and cons lists of living in New York or moving back home. Then a lot of more pros popped up because I could have all the things I wanted. I could have apartment of my own, affordable rent, laundry accessible, parking accessible, nature nearby, family nearby, like literally everything that was a con about living in New York was gone when I thought about living here. So I finally mustered up enough confidence to let the people in my life know and make those arrangements I needed to make as far as doctors, health insurance, work, relationships, all of that. I had a few very productive weeks and I got everything done, and now I'm here. So now when I look at my values, it makes a lot more sense, and I can now incorporate these things into my life on a daily basis as far as nature and family and health and animals. And I also have my dog right upstairs, which is amazing. And living here also allows me so much more time and energy to create things, to write, to work on poetry, create these videos, teach yoga classes, to do live meditations. P.S. I'm going to plug myself right now because I've been doing these live meditations and they've been going super, super well, and I want to share them with as many people as possible. I tried doing a live on Instagram and it was just like really weird and it didn't feel like the right place to do it. So there's this app called Insight Timer. I'll put a link to my Insight Timer below. It's an app in the App Store. It's also a website, but they have these live sessions. So I've been doing live sessions. I'm going to try doing the schedule Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 30-minute sessions. They usually go like about 5 minutes over. And I'll probably add in some more times and days as needed. But they've been going really well. I've been feeling super inspired by them because I haven't been planning them. And a lot of just great visualizations and ideas come to me while doing those meditations. So check them out. They're completely free. There is options to donate that supports me as well as Insight Timer. And it's just such an amazing platform and app. And it's a worldwide community. Like there's a girl who comes to most all of my meditations who's in Dublin. And there's people from New Zealand and just all over the world. And it's really, really cool to just have a way to connect with people authentically that's not Instagram. And I also want to try to make more TikToks. I'm having like a lot more fun on TikTok, and it feels like a more accepting and helpful community, I guess, than like an Instagram community. But it's also like a little overwhelming to try to like learn a whole new social platform when I'm trying to like spend less time on the ones I already have. But it is really fun and it's super creative, and there's a lot of fun ideas of like video making. So I am on TikTok. It's a Ruthiehananyoga, Ruruhannan. So you can check me out there. I post things occasionally. It's mostly my cats. Those are just some plugs. So yeah, I think I hit everything I wanted to hit in this video. When to fake it till you make it, incorporating values, self-compassion, both and. Got it all. Okay. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing. You better subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let me know any thoughts or opinions you got on what I'm saying. And yeah, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.